Let's get started. Hey everybody, appreciate you watching the other video. I'm sure most of you popping in here were just over there a second ago. Hello, hello. Give me a thumbs up out there if my audio is good. I don't want to be clipping. Just let me know how it is out there. Hey everybody, thank you to my mods for helping out. We got Political Foolishness and Katie Cat, Sharon Gregory. Uh, I'm sure we'll have a couple other people pop in here anytime now. And we are going to go ahead and upgrade Mr. Steven as a moderator as well. Hey everybody, who was it a second ago saying remember his ASMR? Man, I'm trying to forget those days. Back in 2014, in the early days before this channel had grown, I tried my hand at ASMR. I would read stories about Norse mythology. It was fun. I liked it. I've got this $500 microphone, a binaural microphone. It's pretty cool if you listen with headphones. But back then, I had awful internet here and could not. They didn't have live streaming back then, but my videos were super low quality because I couldn't upload big files. The internet wouldn't support it here. But eventually we got fiber, and that was great. That helped out a lot. But yeah, I had the big beard and talking accents. So listen, if you guys like that kind of stupidity from me, I got some stuff coming that I honestly don't know if I'm going to broadcast it here on Blackstone or not, but because I want to diversify on YouTube, I like doing YouTube videos. And I think that I could build other channels that are the kind of things, kind of topics that I can talk about that are totally safe. There wouldn't be any reason in the world for YouTube to go after and demonetize. And one of those is, so I have a huge community on Instagram and Facebook around horror and science fiction movies. Classic stuff primarily. I'm talking about like the old Universal monsters from the 30s and 40s, and then the 1950s Atomic Age movies, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Forbidden Planet after that, moving on. So anyway, I've got a lot of followers on that stuff, and I sell T-shirts and some stuff. It's a side business that I started a couple years ago. But I was thinking, you know what? If I just wanted to create like a horror host and do movie reviews and talk about these classic movies and everything, I could probably do that on a channel. I like being theatrical. I used to do some acting. I used to have a Dr. Frankenstein show that I did every October, thousands of audience members throughout October as I do the show, and I enjoyed it. So anyway, I think I'm going to do a YouTube channel or two with that, along with a podcast connected to it. So Plain Reality says, move the mic a bit closer or turn up the gain. In my own ears, it sounds like I'm clipping. It sounds like it's too loud. But anyway, if this sounds too loud, too distorted, let me know. Because what happens is if I talk and it's too loud through the microphone, then it kind of ruins it for doing like if I want to take clips from the live stream and repost either in podcast form or just in separate videos, it it comes out sounding way too loud, so I try not to do that. Okay, everybody's saying it's good overall. So anyway, this monster stuff, classic monsters and things like that, I like it. It's safe. Not going to have any trouble whatsoever with YouTube on that. The only potential is, since I do Blackstone as well, if I go advertising that other stuff, all my haters from Blackstone who want to call me an anti-Semite and all that, they'll just migrate over to my other stuff and, you know what, try and tear down that stuff. And so I'll have to come up with a way to figure that out. But anyway, if you want to see some theatricality and even costumes and stuff, I'll be doing some of that. Monster Mailers. Hey, Monster Mailers. I haven't talked to you in forever. Monster Mailers was very, very supportive of the twins. They are doing great. In fact, in a little over a month is their 5-year birthday. 5 years old already. Can you believe 5 years has passed since that surprise? But anyway, yeah, they're doing great. Took them today to a splash pad. They're out there running around, having fun in this heat. Man, it was hot today. But anyway, they're sweet and wonderful. Yeah, 5 years old already. I wish that the world was not the way it is and I could share pictures with you guys, but I'm not going to do it. Just the nasty stuff that people do. Someone once found a picture of one of my teenage sons. This is around 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. And it was a picture of me standing next to my son. He was maybe 15 at the time in the picture. But they took the picture of him and put a message about how they were going to find him and cut his throat because I'm an anti-Semite. So you just can't afford to. You can't put your kids at risk. That's just the unfortunate reality. Crazy people out there. Anyway, Monster Mailers, thank you for that donation, my good friend. I appreciate it. Yeah, Joe Who says, don't show the pic. I'm not going to. There's, I won't say the person's name, but there was someone connected to, I won't even say what tragedy, a tragedy involving children. And this one person, his haters took pictures of his son, who was killed in a school shooting, took pictures of his son and photoshopped. They took child pee and photoshopped his face onto the adult's head and his little boy's face onto the child victim's head and sent it to him. It's insane how horrible people can be. Anyway, so Alex says I'm kind of quiet too. That's weird. Some of you can hear me fine, and some of you are saying it's a little bit quiet. I don't know what to do. Anyway, I'm just going to keep talking. So here's what I'm going to do in this show. I'm going to take, it's probably Unit 8200 sitting over there in Tel Aviv. You know, Israeli unit sitting there doing what they do. They came after me in Eilat Shaked, sicked them on me. Eilat Shaked was a member of the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, and she had posted something. This was during the 2014 Israeli assault on Gaza when they were massacring Palestinians. And she had put out this thing about how there were, little snakes and needed to be killed. The mothers needed to be killed so they can't produce any more of these little snakes. And she got in some hot water for it, so she deleted the post off of Facebook and then went out and said that it was total lies, that she never said this. Well, I had already taken a screenshot of it in the couple minutes it was up, so I had it, along with the translation from Hebrew into English. So I was broadcasting that like crazy, putting it out on YouTube and everything. And she's nasty. She sicked 8200 on me, and it was just boom, 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 boom. Bombardment. So many attempts at getting my videos, trying to get strikes against them fortunately, at that time, YouTube wasn't so oppressive as it is now. You could talk about stuff. It was not easy. But anyway, Eyelet shook head. That woman. All right. So years ago, I did a live stream where I did a reading of Animal Farm, some Animal Farm. And I also did a giveaway where I gave this away as a prize or a copy of this. This is a different copy. But it's 1984 and Animal Farm in one book. And what I thought I'd do, instead of like sitting here reading, what I did was I took a bunch of excerpts and from the book and typed them up. And I wanted to share some of these excerpts with you tonight and show you how 1984 is a reality. And so as I do it, I'll try and pay some attention here to the chat, but at the same time, I may miss some of it. So if there's something important, you can just repeat it. I'll try and watch. Anyway, excuse me. Let me get my glasses. Monster Mailer said, Jake did a show a long time ago on how the people in Israel aren't Semitic. Is that video still available? I don't know if it's up. The Ashkenazi Jews are definitely not Semitic, or very little, which is why it's illegal to get a DNA test in Israel without a court order. And I did a report on that with all the sources and proof that that's the case. I'll put a couple links here in the chat. This is my Patreon and my Substack. Maybe it's only showing one. Let me do both of them here. I say this because I put the information from that. I guess I should have done these links separately. I tried to put them in both at the same time. Okay, there. No, it's the same thing. Dang it. All right, well. Sorry, I'm spamming the group here with my links. So on Patreon at the $5 and up, or on Substack, I've got the report on how it's illegal to get a DNA test in Israel without a court order because of concerns over this. I don't know if the video is still up. I will look, Monster Mailers, and see. If not, maybe over the next week or so, I'll just redo that video. I'll do another version of that. So the Ashkenazis are they have very little ancient Jewish Semitic blood in their bloodline. The Sephardic Jews do. Sephardic Jews are a lot like the Palestinians. They're they go back to ancient times, to basically Canaanite people, the various Canaanite peoples. That's where the Palestinians are from. It used to be that people assumed that the Palestinians were very heavily Arab in their genetics because of, well, so much during the years of the centuries of the Ottoman Empire. But it turns out that while they do have a lot of Arab blood, they still have a very strong bloodline going back to ancient Canaanites, and so did the Sephardic Jews. But anyway, not these European converts that, unless they have intermingled with, say, Sephardic Jews or other Semitic peoples like the Palestinians, which is not real common. And there was a remnant of Jews who a very small minority, but a remnant of Jews who were always in Palestine as the minority after they had been driven out by the Romans around 70 AD, and they just kind of petered out, and they didn't have much of a presence there. But there were some. And then there were some of the Jews coming back from Babylon and from Assyria, who had Semitic bloodline. So it's we're all genetic mutts, and I don't think that genetics should resolve the issue of who gets the land in Palestine, regardless. Really, what determines it is uh, who had the rights to it, and it was the Palestinians. But anyway, so I'll check for that, Monster Mailers, and see if I've got it up. If I don't, and I can't find it to repost, then I'll redo it. I'll do that again soon. But anyway, so I want to talk through some of this, and just at the outset, as I've mentioned, it's probably just the same bunch of you that are normally in here with me. If anyone does make a super chat donation and you would like a personal thank you from me, because I really sincerely appreciate these donations, just email me at jake@blackstoneintel.com with your name, address, and whatever your username is. If I wouldn't know from your username who you are, you can just email me and remind me that you sent me a super chat. I'd be glad to send you a thank you letter. Anyway, all right. So let me read some of this. Orwell's 1984. Have you read it? A lot of people have heard of it and know some of the general ideas, but surprisingly few people have actually read it. If you've read it, maybe put a thumbs up or something out there. You can brag that you've read it. It's an interesting book. Yeah, a lot of people ended up reading it in school back when they had decent literature assigned for students. But let me read some excerpts from it. Let me go ahead and first read you from the Dust Jacket. I'll read you the synopsis because some people don't know what it's about. In 1984, London is a grim city in the totalitarian state of Oceania, where Big Brother is always watching you, and the thought police can practically read your mind. Winston Smith is a man in grave danger for the simple reason that his memory still functions. Drawn into a forbidden love affair, Winston finds the courage to join a secret revolutionary organization called the Brotherhood, dedicated to the destruction of the party. Together with his beloved Julia, he hazards his life in a deadly match against the powers that be. Anyway, so that's kind of what it's about. Hey, lawyer for the people. All right, so I'm going to read some excerpts to you and then kind of share with you what I think about some of this. Here's the first one. And I gave all of these just kind of like a summary heading. Oh, you know what? Let me see if I... Give me just a second. I'm going to make the screen black. There's actually a picture I want to show, but I don't have it loaded. So let me see if I can load this up. Where did I put it? Okay. So these are the main messages of Orwell's 1984, at least according to my reading, the way that I read it. The main messages include the danger of totalitarianism, surveillance and control, manipulation of truth and language, the loss of individuality, the power of propaganda, psychological manipulation, repression of free thought, the erasure of history, and the perpetual state of fear. So, I've taken these and kind of divided them up into like 10 segments or 10 sections, 10 quotes that I'm going to share with you, and then we'll compare this to modern U.S. society. And a lot of Western Europe is like this as well, and probably other countries around the world. But anyway, quote, this is from the book. We are not interested in the good of others. This is from the party members. We are not interested in the good of others. We are interested solely in power, Not wealth or luxury or long life or happiness, only power, pure power. What pure power means, you will understand presently. We are different from the oligarchies of the past in that we know what we are doing. All the others, even those who resembled ourselves, were cowards and hypocrites. The German Nazis and the Russian communists came very close to us in their methods, but they never had the courage to recognize their own motives. They pretended, perhaps they even believed, that they had seized power unwillingly and for a limited time, and that just around the corner there lay a paradise where human beings would be free and equal. We are not like that. We know that no one ever seizes power with the intention of relinquishing it. Power is not a means, it is an end. So, power, yeah. Patrick Belmer in the chats is quoting Henry Kissinger. Power is the ultimate aphrodisiac. They want power. The global elites, the Peter Thiels of the world, they've got so much doggone money. What thrills them is not money as much as the acquisition of power. When you have so much money, like, who was it? Jeff Bezos, for his honeymoon, he basically rented Venice, Italy. Not a hotel, the city. When you have so much money that you can do anything you want, I suppose it gets boring to some of these people. And that's why you gravitate toward power. That's why you have Elon Musk, who's got, he's the richest man in the world. And yet he wanted to get into political power. But anyway, they want power. Surveillance, the next section here I have is surveillance is a tool of oppression. Here's a quote from the book. There was, of course, no way of knowing whether you were being watched at any given moment, how often, or on what system. The thought police plugged in on any individual wire was guesswork. It was even conceivable that they watched everybody all the time. But at any rate, they could plug in your wire whenever they wanted to. You did live, from habit that became instinct, in the assumption that every sound you made was overheard, and except in darkness, every movement scrutinized. So one of the things in this book is that the people know that they are being watched all times of the day. There is no such thing as privacy. Even in your own homes, your own little rooms that you have, they can watch you. They can know what's going on. Now, for those that are aware of some of the tech with smart TVs and things like that raise concerns, and your phones, how they can listen to you through your phones with Pegasus software, spyware, and things like that. Really true privacy is very hard to come by. When you travel, they can track you. They track you with your phone. If you try and travel out of the country, you got to have a passport, and they've got chips in passports now, so they can track you that way. Very hard to have true privacy, and not just in these kind of select ways. They are. Let me see if I can find where I have some of this. Give me a second here. So I put in the article I put up today, the Blackstone report I put up today, I included a whole bunch of sources to articles about some of this stuff. This is one of them. Ohio police use robots, drones, and AI to help fight crime. Some say this will erode privacy. Police are starting to use new surveillance tech all over Ohio, including drones, surveillance centers, AI, and even robots. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Office and the Dublin Police Department are two agencies deploying drones as pseudo-first responders starting this year. Dublin is also adding a pair of police robots, first seen in New York City's subway tunnels. The Columbus Division of Police will soon build a new real-time crime center. These surveillance hubs can monitor government traffic cams, license plate readers, and police body cameras. The hubs also can tap into privately owned schools and business cameras or residential doorbell cameras with permission from owners currently. A murder case investigated by the Cleveland Division of Police has key evidence provided by AI facial recognition software that was recently thrown out of court. So you got police drones, robots to patrol skies, parking garages, parks. So we're getting more and more to where everything is being monitored. And certainly the protests, freaking DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and ICE Barbie, they were running a predator drone over the protests in California a month ago, or however many weeks ago it was. I don't know if it was armed, but it was the exact same kind of predator drone that is used in Iraq and Syria and elsewhere to hit people on the ground and kill them. That's frightening as hell. When the U.S. government is flying predator drones over protests, some people will say, oh, well, these people are all awful because they're supporting illegal immigration. Maybe some are, maybe some aren't. But they're American citizens, and it's their right to protest. And when you got military boots on the ground to protect or enforce these jackbooted thugs and their masks and heavily armed. So have you seen some of these videos of what these guys do? These federal agents? They're brutal. What the violence against people that, first of all, they don't even know for sure if they're grabbing the right people. Sometimes all they're doing is rolling up to Home Depot and dashing out of their unmarked van and grabbing everybody that they can. Maybe they'll get somebody who's an illegal, maybe they won't, but they won't know until they take them and start processing them. Some of this stuff is horrible. We'll talk more about that. But my point is, even if you're like, I'm for strong crackdowns on illegal immigration, fine, but what do you care about? What is the thing that would get you in the street protesting? And when that thing happens, how are you going to feel when the U.S. military is out there grabbing some of your friends, asking for identification when you've done nothing wrong? Flying a predator over your head? This is freaking America. You're not supposed to do this crap here. It's scary. It is scary. It's been a gradual process. I'm not blaming everything on Trump. Back in the Boston Marathon bombing, there was a lot of stuff. After 9/11, there was a huge lurch toward authoritarian control of the people with the USA Patriot Act, the most damnable piece of legislation ever passed in America that has done more to strip the rights of American citizens than any other thing that's ever been passed in U.S. history. They're coming after us hard. And so, it really, we can have our differences. Democrats and Republicans and everybody in between can fight and squabble over whatever, but keep in the back of your head, they're fellow Americans. And the real enemy is not the Democrat next door to you or the Republican on the other side. The real threat is the federal government. Keep that in mind. That's the real threat, because they don't care. Federal government's not going to care if you've got a D or an R next to your name. They'll come after everybody when the time comes. But anyway, so in New Orleans, they've got facial recognition cameras. I've got one article, I won't pull it up, but 8 Americans were wrongfully arrested after officers relied on faulty facial scanning matches. They didn't confirm leads. They just went and grabbed them, arrested them. Totally innocent Americans. They went and grabbed them because the this face scanning was incorrect. Do you think that these cops that did this, or the people that gave them the orders to go snatch these innocent Americans, you think any of them are going to pay any price? Of course not. Oops. The government will just keep going. All right, here's another section heading. Truth is malleable under authoritarian rule. The quote from the book is, "And if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became truth. Who controls the past, ran the party slogan, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past. And yet the past, though all of its nature alterable, never had been altered. Whatever was true now was true from everlasting to everlasting. It was quite simple. All that was needed was an unending series of victories over your own memory. Reality control, they called it. In newspeak, it was called doublethink." So, in 2014, I want you to think about this: the rewriting of history. In 2014, Joe Biden was Obama's vice president, right? Some of us were reporting extensively on the build-up to the Maidan Square coup, the Maidan Revolution, the Orange Revolution, one of the CIA's color revolutions. Well, Biden was pushing for this. He was vice president, and he was styling himself as this big champion of the people of Ukraine. John McCain was over there in Ukraine, standing next to literal neo-Nazis, shoulder to shoulder with them, saying you've got the full support of the United States. His boy wonder, Lindsey Graham, was over there promising to help out. But so while Biden is in office, the CIA orchestrates this coup in Ukraine. It's a U.S. CIA-backed uprising. And what they did was they deposed the democratically elected president of Ukraine, a guy named Viktor Yanukovych. He was originally from the Donbass region, the eastern region of Ukraine. And most of the eastern region of Ukraine, they're on the border of Russia, so a lot of people, they're ethnic Russians, they speak Russian. So anyway, we have leaked phone calls that prove active U.S. involvement from top officials like Victoria Nuland. It shows beyond any doubt that the United States was coordinating these protests, coordinating with the protesters and supporting these hardcore ultra-nationalist skinheads, is basically what they were, to help overthrow the country. And so what followed when they overthrew the government in Kiev and Yanukovych went fleeing to Russia so they didn't kill him, was this power vacuum. And so Victoria Nuland, one of the phone calls with her, you can hear her. She's discussing with other leaders who they're going to install as the new puppet president of Ukraine. And so they go and they pick their best pro-Western, pro-NATO guy, put him in, fill the government with ultra-nationalist and far-right elements, people who were openly hostile to the ethnic Russians. They're racist, supremacist. Now, if this happened in America, we'd be pretty pissed off. If, some China or whoever comes in, overthrows our government, puts somebody in that's like hardcore pro-China, and they start outlawing whatever, English or whatever. And they install all of their extremist pro-communist or whatever people in seats of government power throughout the country, we'd be pissed off. And hopefully we would fight back. Well, that's what they did in Ukraine. This coup by the CIA predictably spawned a civil war because the people in the Donbass region, in Donetsk, Lugansk, like, we're not going to do this. Crimea. And so they say, look, if you're going to crack down on us, we're not going to go along with this. So what does Kiev do? They send in their military and they start killing the people in Donbass. And so the people start fighting back, and boom, you've got a civil war. Thousands and thousands of people are killed, mostly people in the Donbass, over the next 8 years. And I maintained contact with a handful of mercenaries that were fighting with Donbass. Some of you know one of them because he's kind of well known. He's not fighting now, but Tex. But this war is going on and on and on. 8 years of this war. And in the United States, they hardly covered it. They didn't know what was going on here in America. If you were one of my viewers, you did, because I was talking about it a lot. And so what people do know about, because when it's convenient to the pro-West narrative, they'll make sure you hear about it in the news. They hear that in February 2022, Russia invades Ukraine. Biden is now president. So what does he do? He oversees a huge effort by the federal government to have corporate media outlets suppress any information that tells the truth to the people about what's going on. It has to be totally one-sided. Putin is a dictator. He's a mass murderer. He's trying to overthrow the entire country, take it all over. And that's what the people hear. And so remember, 2022, every single Democrat in the country had a little Ukrainian flag or a little sunflower emoji next to every freaking social media profile picture that they had, their names everywhere. They're brainwashed. Now, it's totally fine. I don't have a problem with you supporting Ukraine or even disliking Russia. That's not my concern. Because there's extremists among the Russians as well. They've got their fair share of crazies over there. But the problem is the way this was framed is that this was strictly an event that started in February 2022. They erased all of the prior context, kind of like with the October 2023 Hamas attack. It starts at that point. There is no prior history. Doesn't exist. We whitewash that. But that's what they did with Ukraine. And to this day, relatively few Americans know about the 8 years of fighting that went on, of an aggressive government from Kiev that was installed after a CIA coup, going after the people who are ethnic Russians, killing them, just horrible, not letting them leave Ukraine. No, you didn't. Who you voted for, we kicked out. We put this person in who wasn't elected, and you're going to like it, or we're going to come kill you. That was basically it. And Biden is pushing this. Unprovoked attack by Putin doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense is he's the new Hitler. There was no discussion in Western media about how Putin had pushed and pushed and pushed to resolve this in a diplomatic way. You had the 2 Minsk agreements where the kind of like how Trump led on the Iranians with the fake nuclear talks, but stabbed them in the back. That's what Biden did. Uh, uh, Effectively, Minsk, screw that. I know we agreed to it, but we're not going to do it. We just said that to get, to try and prevent any fighting. So this war after the February 2022 mess, that's when on Twitter I got totally wiped out. I was reporting literally thousands of posts about what was going on in Ukraine on Twitter, and my at Morphonios Twitter account was blowing up. More and more and more people. I had gotten up close to 30,000 followers on Twitter, and finally, at a certain point, I won't tell the story again because I've told it before, but they shut me down. They didn't outright ban me. They didn't kick me off. They locked my account for a few weeks, but after I got back in, there's a button, there's a thing that locks your account as only posting sensitive, graphic, whatever kind of stuff, and it puts limits on the account. Normally, a user can go in and turn that on and off themselves. If you're posting a lot of war footage or something, gross stuff, Twitter lets you post nasty, gory stuff, but you have to mark it as sensitive. Well, I was just talking like I'm doing here. There's nothing graphic or gory or anything here that's sensitive. I'm discussing stuff and I'm presenting a perspective. But they locked my account because I was presenting a story, a viewpoint that they did not want. So this is an example of a government deliberately manipulating the historical memory, tricking the people into believing something that is simply not true because they erase the history. And that's part of Orwell's 1984. The party controls the past. And the way they control the past is they keep rewriting the records to fit whatever the current political narrative is. And it keeps changing. The current narrative changes, so they have to keep rewriting history, updating it, changing it. And the protagonist in the book, the guy named Winston, he works for the part of the government in charge of this rewriting of history. It's called the Ministry of Truth. And his job is to rewrite old newspapers. Like, take the old newspapers, rewrite them so that the stories from the past look like they are in perfect alignment with whatever the party's current narrative is. Oh, Joel Dalton just put a quote in here in the chat. War against a foreign country only happens when the moneyed classes think they are going to profit from it. From George Orwell. Thanks for the donation, and you're absolutely right, man. That's a good quote. So anyway, Biden's refusal to acknowledge the U.S. role in the 2014 coup, the years-long Donbass conflict, all of that, he officially sanitized the story, buried history, and the public is expected to accept a lie as truth, and many of them do. Because the past is no longer what happened. The past is what they are told to remember. So in that way, the U.S. narrative on Ukraine, it's not just like typical foreign policy spin. This is memory warfare. You rewrite the timeline to absolve yourself of any blame. There's no moral complexity. There's no responsibility. And Orwell warned us about it. He said that truth wouldn't be destroyed with violence. Truth would be destroyed with silence, with omission, with repetition. So if you don't believe that we have a ministry of truth in the United States, just start doing polls of people out there about Ukraine and see how many of them understand. Now, in our circle, Hopefully, a lot of you know this, and I'm preaching to the choir, and this is nothing new. But for most people out there, they don't know this stuff. I appealed for 3 years. For 3 years, I have been sending appeals to Twitter to release that suppression lock and the shadow ban that they've got in effect. You can't even, if you do a search on Twitter for @Morphonios, you're supposed to be able to find me. You can't, I don't even come up. Sometimes the only time that @Morphonios will come up in any search is if another person other than me has tagged me. And then you'll see it. And then you have to click and go from here to here. But even then, none of my stuff goes out. I tried, since I started back a few weeks ago on YouTube, I decided, you know what, I'll try again. I'll see how it goes with Twitter. So I went to my @Morphonios account, and every day that there were strikes between Israel and Iran, I was posting a lot of stuff. Good footage, good good information. 1 like, 2 likes on a post. And I've still got like 23,000 followers on it. But the account's dead. I can't do anything with it. It's dead. But here's the thing. I talked to somebody who was an employee at Twitter. And this was kind of an off-the-record chat. He wasn't like talking to me as a representative, but as someone who's like, let me check your account. And he said, sorry, I can't do anything about it. The U.S. government asked Twitter to lock my account. And they did that. The FBI was doing that to a lot of people, at least for a while. And that's been written about in some articles online. But mine was one of them. So it's proof. There is a ministry of truth that tries to control the narrative by silencing alternate voices so that they can preserve and promote a false history to the masses. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that part. As you can tell, I'm a little pissed about it still. It's just so freaking unjust. So unjust. Let's see. What's the next section here? Language can be used to control thought. So here's the quote from the book. Don't you see that the whole aim of newspeak, if you haven't read the book, newspeak is the allowed language, the way you're allowed to speak. And that's where you change the meaning of words. I won't get into talking about things like what is a man, what is a woman, and how confusing it gets when you start changing the time-honored tradition of what words mean. It leads to confusion. Well, newspeak changes words. But anyway, from the book, don't you see that the whole aim of newspeak is to narrow the range of thought? In the end, we shall make thought crime literally impossible, because there will be no words in which to express it. Every concept that can ever be needed will be expressed by exactly one word, with its meaning rigidly defined and all its subsidiary meanings rubbed out and forgotten. Already in the 11th edition, we're not far from that point, but the process will still be continuing long after you and I are dead. Every year, fewer and fewer words, and the range of consciousness always a little smaller. So you redefine what words mean. And so the main kind of like the motto that you hear, sorry about that, from Big Brother, from the party. There's 3 of them. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. So war is peace. The idea is that constant war keeps the population united. It keeps them obedient because it gives them a common enemy to hate. We see that a lot with politics today. But the next one, freedom is slavery. The idea here is that individual liberty, individuals having autonomy, that's terrible. It leads to ruin. The only way to be safe as a people is to submit your will to the party. The party will do what is right for you. And that's, you know, that's very Soviet communist. And then ignorance is strength. The less people know, the easier they are to control, is the idea. Now, I'm going to show you here real quick. I, to be fair, I bashed Biden some. Let me give a crack at something that is concerning to me about Trump. Um, where's my... All right. So this here, this is just like a logo. War is peace. And you've got Big Brother there, kind of their leader. Looks good, makes sense, right? Now, what was shocking to me was after Trump bombed Iran, sent the B-2s in an unprovoked, unconstitutional attack on Iran that could have kicked off a very serious war. This is what he tweeted out. Isn't that eerily similar? War is peace. Peace through strength. Let me see if I can get my ugly mug up here. I was a kid in the 80s and used to pay attention to politics quite a bit and was a fan of Reagan. Less so now than I was then, of course, but I didn't know any. I mean, can't blame me. I was a little kid. But I remember distinctly a lot of talk about peace through strength. So it's no surprise that Donald Trump is stealing this phrase from Reagan. In case you didn't know, Make America Great Again, he stole that from Ronald Reagan. In 1980, that was one of the Reagan-Bush campaign mottos on the campaign trail. They are the ones. Ronald Reagan campaigned on Make America Great Again. That's not a Trump thing. Trump stole it. But Trump also stole this idea of peace through strength. But I want to talk for just a second here about what the difference is. Because I see a lot of people on social media talking about, oh, peace through strength. Yeah, he's like Ronald Reagan. Let's do a quick comparison because it's totally different. And Stephen, thank you so much. Stephen says, everyone at my job is very pro-Israel, and I just avoid the topic. I don't want to get fired for saying the wrong thing. Thanks for the donation, my friend. Yeah, that's how it is. Ronald Reagan's approach to the Cold War in the 80s was this idea of peace through strength. It was primarily he called on the Democrat-controlled Congress, to let him spend lots of money on defense, on building up nuclear deterrence, taking a hard stance against the Soviet Union. And the reason that he did this was there had been tensions for decades between the United States and the Soviet Union, and there were legitimate fears of a nuclear war breaking out. So his idea was you avoid war by having an overwhelming strength. You build up the military, not to use it as a tool of aggression, but as a deterrent. And so Reagan got the Democrats to increase the military budget. He ended up deploying some missiles in Europe, which I think is bad. But ultimately, Reagan's thing was not just build up the military, it was build up the military while simultaneously working with the enemy on arms control treaties. And so he came up with the INF Treaty, and he was in deep, frequent diplomatic negotiations with Gorbachev. That was the key to peace through strength. It was build up your defenses and talk to your enemy and work out your differences. So strategic deterrence coupled with productive diplomacy, not military action. At no point did Reagan ever attack the Soviets or threaten to attack them. That's his version. Trump's way, his interpretation of peace through strength, is launching massive military force. You don't talk. You order. You tell the people what they're going to do. And if they don't do exactly what you say, when you say it, you go bomb the hell out of them. That's a little bit different from Reagan's approach. It's an insult to Reagan to compare. Trump's peace through strength is a total mockery of actual diplomacy. It's diplomacy that ensures peace. Yeah, like Teddy Roosevelt said, speak softly, carry a big stick. We in the United States need to have a powerful military that is so powerful, so well armed, that no one is going to mess with us because they know they're going to get their butts kicked if they do. But we're supposed to be diplomatic. We're supposed to be negotiating. Trump did not engage in good faith negotiations. He used negotiations to try and get Iran to let their guard down so that Israel and the United States could carry out sneak attacks. So Trump's version is not about strength through a demonstration of resolve or negotiation like with Reagan. His version of peace through strength is brutal force, unconstitutional force, force as a spectacle. Bomb first, and then post a bunch of memes about it. So he shouldn't even call it peace through strength, because that's not what it is. It's Trump's version is peace through domination. Rather than preventing war through deterrence like Reagan, Trump's using deadly missile strikes as public demonstrations. And then he rebrands this for domestic political consumption. He puts out the memes and the tweets and the slogans and his picture there of himself. He's always got his nose up in the air, sticking his chest out. What a brave guy, right? I mean, he is brave and tough. Of course, he did have his daddy's foot doctor write him a note 5 different times to get out of having to go fight in Vietnam. But hey, Trump's really brave. Just look at him. I mean, come on, he's got a meme. How can you not think that this is brave? It's branding. It's post-bombing flexing rather than taking some principled stance against war. Anyway, only in an Orwellian ministry of truth can this concept of unprovoked attacks on other peaceful countries be called peace. Please do not let Donald Trump or any other politician trick you into believing that war is peace. It isn't. Attacking Iran was not an act of peace. It was an act of political theater and state terrorism. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that one. I'm going to get off my high horse there, and I take a little offense because I remember the 80s so well. I remember the talks. I remember Reagan and Gorbachev sitting down over and over and over again, trying it, and sometimes they didn't work. Sometimes Reagan walked out. Sometimes Gorbachev was like, forget it, this isn't working, I'm out of here. They'd regroup, and they'd sit down and try again. And neither side was threatening to kill the other side. Neither side said, listen, I'm willing to sit down and talk to you, but if you don't agree to exactly what I say completely within 5 weeks, I am going to come kill you. You can't, that's not negotiation. That's not deal making. Dennis in the chat says, "Oh, thank you, Dennis, for the kind donation. Hey, Jake, tell me what keeps you going, given the forces, power, and money you are against." Um, I'm stupid. That's part of it. I just don't know when to quit. I just I don't know. I What else am I going to do? I love this stuff. I love talking about it, and I feel very passionate about it. I feel very strong about spending my life doing something that I want whenever I die at some point in the future. I don't want to have any regrets. I don't want to look back on my life and think, man, I wish I had done this or this or this differently. And so that's why I prioritize time with my family. I prioritize doing everything I can with my kids because I know time is short. And it's why I gravitated toward trying to make money doing something that to me was meaningful in this way. And I'm not at all suggesting that you need to make your income this. For much of my life I was, earning an income, a regular income just like anyone else. I still, even then though, I was trying to do stuff that was meaningful to me. Like I was managing, I was regional manager for a corporation where we owned group homes all up and down the coast for adults with mental retardation, and we provided like small home, like you have like five adults living in a home that together they could be anywhere from mild to profoundly mentally retarded, but not able to care for themselves. But instead of sticking them in an institution or something, we'd have these small settings, give them as much dignity as we could, work with them. I'll tell you a real quick story. There's this one guy named Sam at the group home that I was the primary manager over. We had 5 residents there. There was this guy named Sam. Sam, uh, I guess he was in his late 50s at the time that I first met him. And he was very autistic. He had some problems. He looked, and I don't mean this at all in an offensive way. I'm not trying to insult him. He looked just like Boris Karloff's Frankenstein. The top of his head was flat. He was very tall. He had gaunt cheeks. He just had this, he was scary to look at. But the thing about Sam is that the reason he was in the home there, his family, his brother, turned him over because Sam had been normal his whole, well, he had been, not normal, but had issues. But he was communicative and could live with them, and it wasn't a problem. But when Susan Smith, I think it was, is that the name of the woman that drowned her kids, put her kids in the car and drove it into a lake or something and drowned them? I think it was Susan Smith. Anyway, Sam saw that on TV and something snapped. Like he broke down. It so affected him for some reason that we never figured out. Um, he snapped. And the way that he manifested this breakdown is he just stopped talking. By the time I met Sam, he had not spoken he hadn't uttered one syllable in like 5 years. No one had heard him talk, except he did this weird thing. Whenever the phone in the house would ring, and this was a normal house, it was a house with 5 bedrooms, big living area, kitchen, bathrooms. Whenever the phone would ring, if he was near it, he'd pick it up and he'd say, "Hello, hold on." And then he'd go find whoever, tap him on the shoulder, point at the phone. We were baffled by this. He can talk, but he would only talk with the phone in his hand. So we're like, let's try something. And I talked with my staff. We bought a set of walkie-talkies, and we gave him one. And we started trying to talk to Sam through the walkie-talkie. And he did it. And over a period of a few months, anytime we would talk, we had him carry it everywhere we went, because they had like, the residents had like work during the day. He worked at, I think it was Food Lion, stocking shelves. But he would have he'd have one of my staff with him there in case he needed anything. But everywhere he went, he would take that walkie-talkie, and that's how the staff would talk to him. Well, gradually, we started trying to trick him and get him to talk without the walkie-talkie. And finally, one day, he did it, and we pointed it out. "Sam, you're talking without the walkie-talkie." And this look came over him. And from that point on, he talked to us without the walkie-talkies. He just was like, "Okay, I guess I'll talk. You got me." But anyways, that was a meaningful job for me, working with them. But that's also where I did investigations too. Anytime there were allegations of any abuse anywhere in the region, we had 23 homes in the region and hundreds of staff. And so anytime there was any allegation of any kind of misbehavior by the staff or anything like that, I would go and conduct an investigation, have to interview all the staff members and whatever, and make the decision based on the evidence whether to discipline or fire or let the person go, find that nothing was done wrong. But anyway, what keeps me going is I have a strong memory. I can't get certain images out of my mind. And I've got a lot of images of suffering Palestinian children. And I see my children's faces when I look at them. And I think, if my children were going through this, if I had been killed by some enemy, my wife's dead, my kids are orphaned, would there be anybody that would reach out and speak on behalf of my children? And I would want that. Knowing that I would want that for my kids, I cannot hold my tongue while I see the suffering of the children of Palestine or elsewhere. I have to. I'm compelled to. And my wife could tell you, this brings a heck of a lot of trouble to me. I experience a lot of blowback from being involved in this. Yeah, we had 1,000. Sometimes I'd have over 2,000 people in a live stream. It's crazy. It's hard to get. I got 200 people in this live stream. It is late. I mean, understandably, it's late. I wouldn't expect that, but I would think, I would expect more than 200 people when I've got, almost 250,000 subscribers to the channel. You would think that more than 200 could show up, but they don't know about it. They don't get the notifications. So it's why I always say hit the bell icon, and also make sure you go sign up for Substack. Get those messages from me. blackstoneintel.substack.com. There's a certain rate of attrition. I've got this list of names, and it's like 9,400 names that I've got, email addresses, people who have signed up with my newsletter. But every time I send out a Substack message, I will have a batch of people who'll be like, yeah, I'm not interested in these topics anymore, and they unsubscribed. So, which is fine because I don't want to be sending stuff to people that are no longer interested. People's preferences and interests change over time. But I also want to maintain the list. I don't want the algorithm at Substack to see only declining uh, uh, people leaving. I want there to be an ample number of new subscriptions so they see it's balanced. Because in the news category on Substack, and I don't know how many people have, I would assume hundreds of thousands of people have Substack accounts that they put stuff out. But I've been ranking up around 50 for the rankings in the news category. And for just being back 1 week, I think that's pretty good. But I don't want them to start thinking that I suck because I only have people uh, unsubscribing rather than subscribing. So make sure that if you are not already subscribed, go to blackstoneintel.substack.com. All right. Propaganda replaces reality. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. His heart sank as he thought of the enormous power arrayed against him, the ease with which any party intellectual would overthrow him in debate, the subtle arguments which he could not be able to understand, much less answer. And yet, he was right. They were wrong, and he was right. The obvious, the silly, and the true had to be defended. Truisms are true. Hold on to that. The solid world exists. Its laws do not change. Stones are hard. Water is wet. Objects unsupported fall towards the earth's center. With the feeling that he was speaking to O'Brien and also that he was setting forth an important axiom, he wrote, "Freedom is the freedom to say that 2 plus 2 makes 4. If that is granted, all else follows." And that, if you haven't read the book, there's a part of the book where he's taken by the party and basically subjected to like electroshock, trying to get him to accept things that he knows are not true. And so they'd ask him, what is 2 plus 2? And he'd say 4. And they'd zap him. No, it's 5. He knows it's not 5. What is 2 plus 2? 4. Bzz. And on and on and on, trying to program him to think a certain way. They try and make you think a certain way through punishment. Now, is anybody giving us electroshocks? No, at least not yet. But look at the example of Gaza. We all know it's a genocide. Tens of thousands of civilians, including a disproportionate number of kids, have been killed directly, and then hundreds of thousands have been killed indirectly. Entire neighborhoods have been smashed to rubble. Basic necessities like food and water, medical care, all of that's cut off. It is genocide by very definition of the word in the dictionary, by the definition under international law. And yet, you got people like Piers Morgan and everybody else in Western media out there gaslighting you, telling you it's self-defense. What they're doing isn't genocide. It's self-defense. They're not targeting civilians. Like every single Israeli propagandist that gets on TV, we don't target civilians. If you don't target civilians and you've killed a couple 100,000 of them, man, you really suck at what you're doing. How is it that you keep missing and killing more people you don't intend to kill than the ones you do intend to kill? And so throughout the Biden-Harris administration, they stood by and they watched it. They knew damned well this was genocide. Cackling Kamala Harris knew this was genocide. Genocide Joe deserved his name because he knew it was genocide. But did they do anything to call out Netanyahu or try and cut off the arms or money going to Israel for this? No, they didn't just, and they weren't just like sitting back saying, well, we're going to stay out of it. They were actively involved. They were blocking international efforts to intervene. They were telling basically all of our vassals around Europe and everywhere else, don't get involved or we'll cut off funding to you. They they're telling the American people these talking points when here we are, we can see with our own eyes what's going on. But what do they, so if they're not using electroshock against us to change our minds and change the way we see and think, what were they using? Well, the biggest weapon is the charge of anti Semitism. Because, like, was it Stephen earlier? Let me look back here. Yeah, Stephen, who said he was at his job, everyone's pro Israel. He avoids the topic. He doesn't want to get fired. That's the weapon. They fire you, they kick you out of universities. You get kicked out of everything. You get kicked out of the public square, social media. You can't participate if you say the wrong things. Is that not a form of punishment? Of course it is. So what do people do? We have to be quiet about it. Don't talk about it. Hope that you, even though publicly you're agreeing that 2 plus 2 is 5, hope that you don't forget that 2 plus 2 is really 4. Orwell taught us that a sign of totalitarian control is that people are tricked into gaslighting themselves, into doubting or disbelieving their own common sense instead of adopting what they're told by the regime is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I saw it, and I think some of you saw it as well when it came to the whole Trump phenomenon. You know, Biden sucks. Biden sucks, but there was not a cult around Biden like there was around Trump. You didn't have people out there following Biden everywhere he went, wearing clothing to try and look like Biden, defending to the core of everything they were with as much passion as they could, defending every single thing that Biden said, defending all of his sick, twisted things he's been involved in. I mean, some people would argue, you know, the polemics of politics, that's how it goes, but not with the level of cultish fanaticism as the MAGA movement. Yeah, Patrick says their sense of identity. It became who they are. If you attack Trump, you're attacking them personally. That's because they were programmed. They were programmed. I said all along, QAnon, I know how QAnon started because they tried to recruit me in the very beginning. Before there was any QAnon anything, there had been something called FBI Anon, and a handful of social media influencers, I won't name their names right now, but a handful of social media influencers, primarily YouTubers, approached me through email and said, hey, we got this idea. We're going to do this FBI Anon thing, and it's going to be fun and whatever. And you were big into the, talking to me, you have done a lot about the Pizzagate, and you've got a lot of people who respect you for that. I had done the Out of Darkness into Light series on child sex trafficking. And they said, you know, join us and, you know, get in on the ground, and this is going to be fun. And that's how it started. And then they went over and they got it rolling on 4chan before it really but simultaneously, they, like the guys who were originally talking about it on YouTube, these were the guys that were involved in starting it. This was some military whatever recruiting thing. But then you ended up getting some other people like you know, on 4chan who kind of co-opted it and grew it. And when it got big enough, whenever anything, QAnon, militia movement, anything at all, once it gets big enough and there's influence, that's when intelligence agencies are going to say, hey, how can we get in on this? And they did. Domestic and foreign intelligence got involved with the whole QAnon phenomenon because it was people were believing crazy things. 45 minutes down the road from me here, the Comet ping pong shooter. I went and interviewed his girlfriend after he was already in jail. Talked to her for hours, trying to figure out how could he believe that there was a dungeon in Comet ping pong with children in it. He went up there to free them. I mean, I respect that he wanted to do this. You know, the intent is good, but how did you get so crazy in the head that you believed this? And that's what I was trying to get at. Whether I interviewed his dad too, and they just he just believed it. Listened to a lot of Alex Jones, listened to a lot of this stuff, into QAnon and everything else, and just got caught up in it. Owen Wall says, so as a Pizzagate guy, what do you think now? Given a list, Trump, Obama, Hillary, who would you say is not involved in child S crimes? Uh, I think that a lot of these people are just perverts in general. But really, the truly bad people, the worst of them, it's not these main politicians. I'm not saying they're not involved. They certainly were. I mean, that's why I got the Michael, what's his bucket? What's the name of that CIA linked psychoanalyst, psychologist up there that used to do work down in Haiti, where Laura Silsby, at the orphanage that Laura Silsby got her child trafficking kids from. Michael, I ought to remember his name. The guy sent me the lawsuit to sue me for defamation for $5 million. He was good friends with Alephantis and a lot of them there. Michael, I can't remember his last name right now. But anyway, that was huge back then. But the point is, there in Washington D.C., among this circle, yeah, they had sex parties. A whole network there. One of the people I interviewed was no, I didn't interview her. I outed her. A Russian madam. She was from Russia originally, and she was in the State Department. And I put a picture, her State Department picture, with her face blacked out, which even then, now with AI, anyone could probably figure out who it was. But since I was accusing her of what I was, she was linked to the North Hollywood sex trafficking operation that I helped to bust up. Her phone number was her personal phone number was connected to them in the data I was getting. What is this Russian madam? And then I had an attorney call me and said that, oh yeah, I know this person. She sets them up. What she does at the State Department, it's not her official job. This is like she was like a language translator or something officially. But what she was doing was she was coordinating when you would have certain dignitaries come over. She would arrange for them to go to the sex parties where you start out, you get them liquored up, get them high if you can, get them to where they're no longer sober, and then you bring in the younger and younger people till you got underage people in there, get them hooked up, and then take the photos, and you got them. You got them. You got the pictures of them involved in sexual activity with minors. And then you can exert influence into these other countries because you've got this compromise on them. But anyway, who do I think's involved in it? I don't personally think Hillary Clinton was ever out there with children or anything like that. I think she was a wanton um, adulterer, just like her husband. Her husband, though, Bill, he was involved. I mean, you can see pictures of him with some very young, maybe legal, but very, very young girls uh, connected to Epstein. So definitely, definitely a lot of the political class there in Washington, D.C., they're exposed to it. But anyway, um, the big, just like with the whole concept of the deep state, it's usually not the players like Trump or Biden who are the major problems. It's the bureaucracy. It's the deep state is the entrenched bureaucracy that never leaves, never changes. Doesn't matter if you switch, Republican wins, then a Democrat wins, maybe gets another term, then a Republican's back in. The deep state does not change. It's a combination of the U.S. State Department, the Central Intelligence Agency, the war industry. Uh, Politicians are not even the power players here. Politicians are just, they're idiots. They're not even the bad guys. Well, they're bad guys, but they're not the real bad guys. But all of this goes back to the real problem are the think tanks like the Council on Foreign Relations because of their relationships with like the banking class and the investor class. The true powerful people, the shadow government behind Trump. Trump's never going to rid these people. The deep state are the ones giving him the money for his campaigns. You think he's going to get in there and get rid of these people? I don't think he's smart enough to even know who they are or what's going on. I I just don't I think the whole let me go drain the swamp, it was always just a campaign thing because it works and manipulates people. All these people are crooks. The Democrats and the Republicans up at the highest echelons. They're horrible, all of them. But is sex trafficking real? Of course it is. It's a huge problem, not just globally, but even in the United States. It's real. I never believed, and I always said I don't think that there's anything like coming out of that they were doing, like running any kind of sex trafficking operation out of Comet Ping Pong or harvesting children from Comet Ping Pong to get their adrenochrome or anything like that. That's what I was trying to tell people is look, there's a real problem that we can actually go after. We can actually go after these sex trafficking networks. We can actually help real kids. But if all you want is to have your conspiracy feathers ruffled and get your ears tickled with whatever the latest, kookiest conspiracy theory is, you're going to be diverted away from dealing with the real thing. And I think that is one of the things that QAnon did. QAnon, for all its talk about save the children, they never helped anybody. It was just grandstanding. Nobody helped any children because they were going after fake things that didn't really exist. They were being diverted away. And it wasn't just that the people were stupid. It's that embedded inside of all of this were the intelligence operatives steering people away from the truth. Tell you, there is no truth whatsoever to any of this sex trafficking stuff. Pizzagates, oh, they don't do that. What they do is they get in and they say, yes, it's true. And it's over there. Let's go get it. When the truth is, yeah, it's true, but it's over here. They know you're not going to totally abandon this because there's too much evidence showing that there is crazy, disgusting, horrible stuff going on. So they're not trying to convince you it doesn't exist. They're trying to send you over to the wrong place to look. It's kind of like when I sometimes during Easter egg hunting at Easter, I've got my little kids, my big kids. Usually I'll have them hunt Easter eggs separately. But every once in a while, when they're together, if I see that one of my little ones is getting close to an egg, and here comes a big kid, and I know they are going to find it, I'll send them off on a wild goose chase. I'll say, hey, hey, over there, go look over there, under that thing over there. They go over there, and that gives the little one time to go and find the egg. And that's what the intelligence agents do, the operatives. And they don't have to be employed by the federal government. They don't have to be actual FBI agents, although there are. They flip a lot of people and get them to be influencers and use these people. We'll give you a reduced sentence. We got you on this. We'll give you a reduced sentence. We'll keep you out. We'll even let you continue doing this, whatever criminal activity under the table, as long as you use your connections and your influence to steer people the wrong way. That definitely happens. But anyway, so I believe that a lot of this stuff is real, but I feel like I would rather know the truth of it. And if the truth, the real program, the real crime, if it's not as sexy and exciting and titillating as maybe what this person over here who's getting massive views on YouTube because they just keep saying whatever ridiculous stuff, I'm going to stick with the truth. And that's how I was with the Vegas investigation. And that's why I was so frustrated with it, because people are being so easily led away into the weeds, with the crazy ideas about how I'm on. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat there. Yeah, Patrick's got the quotes tonight. Dwight Eisenhower, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. Yeah, and Patrick, and you probably know this, but in his original draft, instead of calling it the military industrial complex, he called it the military industrial congressional complex. And this is back in 1953. He was afraid that that would be too offensive to Congress, and so he took that out. But he knew back then that Congress is complicit because they are the ones who divert the tax dollars away. It's our politicians in Congress that give the war industry their contracts in exchange for perks like campaign funding or seats on the boards of directors or advisory boards of these massive multinational war industry corporations after they leave Congress. Do your time in Congress. Help these people out. Pass bills favoring Raytheon or Northrop Grumman or whoever. And then when you retire from Congress, you'll have a $1 million a year advisory seat waiting for you on the board, where your only job is just to continue to use your connections in Congress to make sure that what is good for the corporation you now represent is passed. It's a racket. Yep, Smedley Butler. It's a racket. So anyway, thought crime was not a thing that could be concealed forever. You might dodge successfully for a while, even for years, but sooner or later, they were bound to get you. It was always at night. The arrests invariably happened at night. The sudden jerk out of sleep, the rough hand shaking your shoulder, the lights glaring in your eyes, the ring of hard faces round the bed. In the vast majority of cases, there was no trial, no report of the arrest. People simply disappeared, always during the night. Your name was removed from the registers. Every record of everything you had ever done was wiped out. Your one-time existence was denied and then forgotten. You were abolished, annihilated, vaporized was the usual word. Again, on immigration, I had made a reference earlier in the stream. Regardless of what you think about immigration, and I'm for strong borders. I'm for getting people who are here illegally out, but that's pretty common, even among most Democrats. Contrary to what Republicans think, most Democrats are concerned about illegal immigration. The real debate, though, is how do you address it? Oh, lawyer for the people says I'm breaking up. Sorry. Let me give it a second, make sure I'm not buffering or anything. Thumbs up out there if you're hearing me okay. So my concern with, thank you, my concern with the immigration thing is not that it doesn't need to be resolved. I think it does. But there's a humane, orderly solution that respects human rights and respects national sovereignty. Things that can be achieved with proper funding. You know, we could set up temporary but strategic expansions of our immigration courts, our asylum processing, hire more staff, case management services. Trump is calling for an end to the debt ceiling and has proposed the big beautiful bill, which is the biggest tax and spend bill in American history. So if he's willing to spend all this money and he claims to be concerned about immigration, fine. Dump some of that money into expanding our immigration courts and the staffing that you need to handle this a way that respects the Constitution, that is fair, and instead what we have is chaos right now. We've got all these backlogs of people waiting for this stuff to be resolved. And so instead of handling it in the mature way, the responsible way, the humane way, we have armed agents in unmarked vans, people wearing masks, often no identification. You don't know if these people are actually ICE, FBI, or just street thugs pretending, taking advantage because of the chaos. These guys are going out there, grabbing mothers off the street, separating them from their kids who are in school at the time, taking these women and these other people without due process, and throwing them out of the country. These tactics don't just erode civil liberties, they tear at the fabric of our society, of our communities. It sows fear among immigrants. Legal immigrants are afraid, not just citizens. And the fact is, companies like the Israeli intelligence-linked Palantir, from the video that I did earlier, they're profiting from this, from the machinery of surveillance and detention. You know how we talk about how there is a prison industrial complex, that there is financial incentive. There's a whole industry, a prison industry, where you make money from putting people in prison. And just like with war, if you don't have enough war going on, if there's no demand for your bombs, you need to create a war. You need to create justification to use your products. If you want to, if you're in the prison industrial complex and you need to make money, your product is not the bombs. You need people. You need butts in jail cells, in prison cells. People who have done nothing worse than they got caught with too much pot or something. Non-violent crimes, people with no histories of crime. Throw them in a cage like an animal. And meanwhile, you've got the laundry services, the food services, the uniforms, the contractors who provide the security guards, the trainers, the whole freaking industry around putting people in prisons, right? So if we know that that is a real thing, understand this. There are disreputable corporations like Palantir making money off of this immigration problem. And they don't care if you're really here illegally. If if that will make them money, they'll come after a US citizen. It doesn't matter. That's my concern with the immigration thing. Yeah, C. Sparrow says, talk about the abuse of cops. Yeah, without question. Without question. Yeah, we've got, and a big part of the reason that we have so many abusive cops is that we get a lot of our training from Israel. A lot of states use the IDF to come over here and train our police forces. They take the same kind of methods that they use on the Palestinians. They come over here and they teach it to our police. Steven says, cops are here to protect us. A few bad ones don't speak for all of them. It's the same kind of situation with the police. The environment where if you speak up, you get in big trouble. You know, if you speak up about your concerns about Israel, you get in trouble at that. If you're one of the white hats, a good cop, and I think that most cops are good cops, but you try and make waves, they keep their mouths shut. There's a lot of bad apples. A lot of them. But that's by design too. The standards and everything that's used, it creates a certain kind of environment. We have too many laws on the books, too many things to go after citizens for. So would the if the cops were not being used, if the states were not trying to collect so much revenue from tickets, there would not be as much incentive for cops to be out stopping everybody. Used to be, even just a couple 15, 20 years ago, you would get warnings frequently if you were driving too fast or had your registration out or whatever. They'd give you a warning. But now, man, no exceptions in most cases. So things are definitely different. That the days of the friendly neighborhood cop are a thing of the past, unfortunately. Now we have tactical Humvees in tiny little towns, going around. Why? Why do you have a Humvee? Why? What do you need that for? Well, in case there's drugs. Drug. We got to do something big. Like, have we ever had that problem ever in this town? Well, no, but so I've seen it both ways. Almost all of my interactions with police have been good. I've called the police a number of times to come help out here when I've had vandalism on my property and stuff like that. Not that I expect them to solve the case. I know they're not going to do that, but at least to document and everything. They've always been polite and everything. Never had any trouble with that. I've never had a bad interaction. I've had obnoxious cops, but I've never had a bad interaction where I felt threatened or anything like that at a traffic stop. But at the same time, my stepfather used to work for Miami Vice, and before he married my mom, he used to come home covered in blood from beating up black guys and would laugh about it. So there are some bad ones out there for sure. Um, and did you guys know that Stephen Miller, Donald Trump's top advisor, who was with him in the first term and here, that he makes money off Palantir? Stephen Miller is this chief strategist, the one that came up with the idea of these raids and this stuff, the way that ICE is doing it now. And he's most forceful proponent in Trump's ear of doing it this way. Um, but he is invested to the tune of $250,000 in Palantir, and Palantir is making money off of it because they provide a lot of the tech and everything, the tracking and all this. So they're making money off it. Like it ought to be so obvious that this is a conflict of interest. Where are the Democrats? I mean, why are they not? Why is nobody trying to hold? It's like corruption is so, it permeates Washington D.C. so thick, so heavy. Nobody even tries anymore. No one even tries to hold anyone accountable because so many of them are. I guess you can't. What are you going to do if you say, "Well, I'm going to get you in trouble for doing this"? They'll just turn around and say, "Man, I know what you're doing. You rat on me. I'm going to out you for this thing. You know that sex party you were at? You want that out there, Matt Gaetz?" Or Matt Gaetz got out of town quick, didn't he? He was like, nah. He knew some stuff was going to come out if he didn't disappear. Orwell wrote, "You will be hollow. We shall squeeze you empty, and we shall fill you with ourselves." Winston paused and signed to the man in the white coat. He was aware of some heavy piece of apparatus being pushed into place behind his head. O'Brien had sat down beside the bed so that his face was almost on level with Winston's. 3,000, he said, speaking over Winston's head to the man in the white coat. Two soft pads, which felt slightly moist, were pressed against Winston's temples. He quailed. There was pain coming, a new kind of pain. O'Brien laid a hand reassuringly, almost kindly, on his. Anyway, so people are afraid to speak out. Look at the college campuses. It's easy to point fingers and say, "Oh, they're just a bunch of Democrats talking, pro Hamas." But look at what the people are going through. They're going after him. APAC has been going after him for years. APAC, well, their buddy Canary Mission has been going after college students for years. College students, they're young, they're getting on their feet, they're learning about the world often for the first time in their lives. They're keying into issues, social issues and injustices, and they're finally old enough and they're shocked that the people older than them, the adults, they're not doing anything about it. And so they speak out, but they lack experience. They're not articulate yet. So they just get out there and chant their silly slogans and wave some signs, and they do what they know how to do. And they're not always articulate. You say things that you maybe don't mean exactly, but so what? It's America. Sometimes you say something stupid, someone calls you out, and you say, "Okay, well, I didn't mean it that way. Really, what I meant is this," and you explain yourself. But what Canary Mission does, which is heavily funded by Jewish billionaires, what they do is they take these college students, college professors, anyone who speaks out against Israel, and they write hit pieces against them. Dirty, horrible things. They'll take things that they said out of context. They'll fabricate quotes. And they will just call them every dirty thing that they can. And call them anti-Semites. And then they put out these hit pieces. And I know this because they've got Canary Mission has like 11 or 12 pages at least on me of reports that they've put out. But same thing. They take things that a lot of what they write about me, I actually said, and I stand by. Yeah, I said those things, and I don't see anything wrong with it. If I criticize Israel, call it anti-Semitism all you want. I call it having a conscience. But then they fabricate other things. But I know from experience they don't just put it up there and leave it. The one they wrote on me from like whatever it was, 2019, 2018, something like that. It's still up there, but what they do is they keep going in and updating it. I'll bet you this week there will be another update to it because they actively watch what I do. They've got so many people out there. They'll take what I say. Let's go back to the art, like Wikipedia. Let's update with the latest whatever. But they also put money into search engine optimization so that the hit pieces that are written about you, when you Google someone's name, it's usually one of the top things that comes up in search results. Now, for me, it's not a big deal because I'm self-employed. I have no boss. I've got nothing to lose. They can't take anything away from me other than, just being general jackasses. But if you're a college student just starting out, getting your degree, trying to break into the field the first time, they go after your employers. If you're already working, they send this stuff to your employers, talk about how you need to be, you're an anti-Semite, you hate Jews, you need to be fired. And if you don't get rid of this employee, this anti-Semite employee, we are going to organize a massive boycott. We're going to blacklist you. We're going to make sure nobody does business with you, that you employ Jew haters. And so a lot of these companies are like, you know what? This is bad for business. We'll just get rid of this person. We'll ask them to leave. And if they don't leave, we'll fire them. Or we won't hire them. The point is defamation, which is why Canary Mission does not have any, that you don't know who owns it, who runs it, who's writing the articles. It's all done in secret because they engage in defamation and they would be sued and they would lose every single time. So, but that's what they do. That's Orwellian, where you take the people like Winston, who is getting shock treatment because he's thinking or saying the wrong things, and you got to fix that, but through punishing him. That's what the Israel apparatus does. That's what Zionism does, is it comes after you in any way they can. Now, if they're willing to do this here, and we know what they're willing to do over in Gaza to the Palestinians, just mass slaughter without any reservation, is it really that much of a stretch to think that if these people consolidate even greater power here in the United States, the way that they're actively doing, are we really safe? Are we really safe? Absolutely not. I don't think we are. That's why I speak out. That's why I say what I do. It's not just what is happening now. It is the trend of where we are going. Anyway, so that's that one. The plus, when you've got Palantir and other Israeli intelligence-linked corporations out there with this stuff going after the protesters and everything, it's chilling. Let's see. Homo sapiens, the next kind. Jake, I have an offer for you. How about I debate you live instead of you doing the echo chamber? Well, how about this? Screw you. If you're a Zionist, you don't get to talk on my channel. You own the entire freaking media world out there. Go on any number of them and tell your lies and everything else. No, you don't get a second on my channel. You're welcome to make an argument in the chat, though, but I'm certainly not going to let you on my on my channel. What are you, crazy? You don't even have a profile picture. Obviously, you're a troll. But anyway, are Native Americans safe from are Native Americans safe from you, Jake? What kind of a question is that? Have I ever taken land away from a Native American? Am I killing Native Americans? Am I doing anything to Native Americans? No, no. Native Americans are safe from me. All right. Do the Israelis born 2002 have taken land? Man, you can't even speak English. Do the Israelis born 2002 have taken land? Yes. Yes. It's like you don't even know what's going on over there and you presume to debate me? They are encroaching on more and more land year after year after year. Do you not know this? Are you not aware that just in the last 2 years that they have rapidly accelerated stealing land from the West Bank? Have you not looked at Gaza, you moron, and seen that they have demolished it from one end of the Gaza Strip to the other? Demolishing everybody's homes, driving the people from the north to the south, back and forth, trying to get them to go over the border? What are you, crazy? You think we're all stupid here? That we can't look? You're doing exactly what I'm talking about here. Gaslighting. Trying to get people to doubt what they see with their own eyes? Man, you're out of your league if you don't know these basic things and you want to step up to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. Man, I swear. These trite little things. Oh, what about the native? Are you on land taken from the Native Americans? Yeah, I'm on land that Native Americans used to live on, long time ago. And you know what? They formed some treaties with the colonists. Some were good treaties, some were not. They got into fights. It became a culture war between the red man and the white man. The white man had the guns. Naturally, the white men are going to be the ones that win. And we drove the Indians further and further back, promising that this is it. We're not going to take any more land than this. And then we'd take more land and we'd push them back. Nope, sorry, we're not going to take any more land than this. You just stay here. Everything's good. Couple years pass. Guess what? Get out of this region of the country. Get all the way over there. Now we're going to put you on these little reservations. The difference between me and you, what's your name, Homo? The difference between me and you, Homo, is that I did not live in America at the time that the ethnic cleansing of the Native Americans was taking place. Would I have done something then? Would I have spoken out? Probably. And you know why I can say that I probably would have? Because I am witnessing today an ethnic cleansing. I can't go back in time and fix what was done in the past. It's impossible. I can't do it. But you know what I can do? I can use my eyes and see what is happening in the day in which I do live. And I can do something about it now. And unlike you, I have the courage and the integrity and the compassion to stand up and speak out and not make excuses for the damned regime that is committing ethnic cleansing in my day. Whereas a coward like you are out there defending the genocidal maniacs. I'll tell you what, back when the Native Americans were being ethnically cleansed, between me and you, if we had been there, I would have been the one standing with the Native Americans. You would have been the one making all the excuses for the government about why it was okay to do it. Because you know what? That's what you're doing today. You moral, reprehensible coward. And that guy there has gotten his debate. Goodbye. That's what I have to say about that. Sorry. All right. I'm going to skip this one on love and personal relationships as personal threats. That's just. Actually, I had a lot of data on that. I just don't want to get into that one. All right, but here's the. Toward the end, I've just got two more. There's no possibility that any perceptible change will happen within our lifetime. We are the dead. Our only true life is in the future. We shall take part in it as handfuls of dust and splinters of bone. But how far away that future may be, there is no knowing. It might be 1,000 years. At present, nothing is possible except to extend the area of sanity little by little. Now, this is coming from the you've got the party in the story, the bad guys, but then you have the resistance, which is the brotherhood. And the book hints that it's possible that the brotherhood itself is a creation of the party, a way to lure in and control and entrap the opposition, the would-be rebels. Okay, you've heard of controlled opposition. Orwell is talking about controlled opposition. And that's something I've seen. I've got personal experience watching this happen. And my goodness, the federal government is good at engaging in controlled opposition. First of all, I'll talk about domestic here in just a second, but over there, speaking of Israel, controlled opposition was originally Hamas, right? Because in the 1980s, you had the power among the Palestinians was the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. But they saw the PLO, the Israelis saw the PLO as the primary problem, the primary impediment to territorial expansion into the Palestinian territories, and often doing the Greater Israel Project stuff. So you got to neutralize the PLO, and the way that you did that, you could do that is you fund the opposition. Take another group of Palestinians, pit them against the PLO, and so Israel did that. They took what was an Islamist movement. They thought, you know what? The PLO, they're a secular group. A lot of them are Muslims, a lot of them are Christians, but they're not religious based. But over here, you've got this other group, this group called the Islamic Association. It was led by Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, and this was the group that Israel started putting money into. Islamist group, and they developed into Hamas. And they gave this group legal recognition. They facilitated this group's social programs in Gaza and helped Hamas to rise to power, to challenge the PLO. And at first it seemed like it was working because they did have kind of a split. Hamas wanted all this, we want control. PLO's like, no. And they basically have this kind of civil war, political civil war against each other, and it fractures the people. And at one point, Hamas actually won elections over the whole Palestinian Authority. But then no one else is going along with that, and they end up with just control in Gaza, and the PLO with Mahmoud Abbas running the show over in the West Bank on behalf of Israel, by the way. But it backfires because Hamas continues to grow in power and influence. They reject negotiations. They launch this violent resistance against Israel. And so Israel started with this attempt to engage in controlled opposition using divide and rule. But they ended up creating an even worse adversary for themselves that was more ideologically bent than even the PLO. Now, that's over there. Here in America, I've seen this. the same kind of controlled opposition tactics take place here in the United States. The FBI infiltrates groups, they co-opt them from within, and almost always, without the group even realizing what's going on, you've now got the federal government. These spooks are in there controlling your group, or at least influencing the direction of the group. I'll give you an example. By the way, if you haven't hit like yet, hit like, okay? The guys that went out there to the Malheur refuge, Ammon Bundy and Lavoy Finicum and all those guys. Ammon, the son of Cliven Bundy, who had made a name for himself standing against BLM, the Bureau of Land Management out there in the West. Well, Ammon and his guys go out to the Malheur refuge, and it's just this series of cabins out in the middle of nowhere, but they go out there. I don't even know that they broke the locks. I think they got keys, but either way, they get in there and they take it over. And they set up camp there. No violence, nobody getting hurt. But you're challenging the federal government. So a couple things happens. One, FBI starts coming in. You've got 20 to 40 of these militia members. Not all were militia members, but many of them were. They got their guns and everything. They're out there at the Malheur Ranch or Malheur Refuge. 20 to 40 of them. What they did not know was that among that 20 to 40 people, 9 of them were FBI informants. Gathering information, gathering dirt, sending the intel back. And these were people, these weren't just like outsiders. These were, a lot of them, members of the community. And they fed intel to the FBI about when and where Ammon and Lavoy were going to be. Ammon and his brother. Ammon was in one truck with one of the FBI informants was driving the Jeep or the vehicle that Ammon was in. And then his brother was in Lavoy's truck, Lavoy Finicum. Super nice guy. Lavoy Finicum was just one of the nicest men you'd ever meet. I used to talk with his wife after I met her at the funeral, and I actually went out there and he lived in the middle of nowhere. I went out there and visited with her at the ranch in their home. Just me and her sitting there talking. Nice home, warm home. You could tell it was very family oriented. He had a lot of kids. But the FBI informants, they passed on information to the FBI about where they were going, and the FBI, their terrorism team, their counterterrorism team, set up a roadblock, an illegal roadblock, ambushed them. Lavoy hopped out of the truck, and they're shooting the truck, the big pickup. There was Lavoy, and I can't remember everybody's name right now. I've talked to most of them. Ammon's brother, the young girl who was a singer that was there with her family, and then Shauna, I can't remember her name right now. Bullet holes, shooting this truck, hitting it with tear gas and all kinds of stuff. Lavoy jumps out. He's got his hands up. He goes out in the snow. You've got FBI in the woods. You got state troopers back here. You got this whole team set up. And they shot him. Shot him and killed him. But anyway, so I went out for the funeral. I first went to Cliven's house. out to his ranch, his cattle ranch, and I was part of the. Um, there was a couple of cars. We were afraid that the FBI was going to do the same thing to him, that he would be ambushed on the drive to the funeral, to Lavoie's funeral, and so there were militia, and I was embedded with them, and we got there fine to the funeral. Picture of me standing next to Cliven uh, was on in Rolling Stone magazine um, as we're walking in together to the funeral. Have the funeral's over. That night we met, a handful of us met at the hotel that Cliven was staying at. They had a conference room. There were maybe 20 of us in there, kind of some of the leaders of the various factions of this whole thing. And we knew the FBI was across the street in the other hotel. They had all their, you know, SUVs, black windows. We knew they were there. They didn't want to hide it. They wanted us to know they were there. But we're in this meeting, and the discussion was, by this point, Ammon's in jail, and there's 5 holdouts from the Malheur Ranch or Malheur Refuge who are still there. And they're inside. They won't come out. FBI has it surrounded. And what do you do? And that was the topic of discussion. What do we do in this situation? Now, there was one person in there who had been, I don't want to say his name, who had been a head of security at the ranch, who was in this meeting, and he was very sly. He kept encouraging Cliven. He kept saying, I will go in, we'll organize a team, we'll go in and exfiltrate these 5 people. And he had a whole plan. They were going to he had a buddy with a helicopter. They were going to bring a helicopter in, use a boat, speed across the lake, exfiltrate these guys, get them out, get them on the chopper, and leave. Just like crazy movie stuff. They had already bought some new drones I had seen earlier. They were showing me the drones they were going to use to try and recon and. But he keeps telling Cliven, I can do this. I can get them out. But I need you to give the approval. I need on your word, I will do this. And I was like, this guy. I already was suspecting that this guy could be one of the FBI informants. And the FBI had been after him. He was kind of on the run from him. I thought they flipped this guy. Was what I was thinking. But I spoke up. I said, Cliven, don't go on record saying that you advocate anything that could be illegal, or don't do it. Don't do it. I didn't want to say in that meeting, you're being set up, and I think this guy, trust me, in a room full of armed militia guys, you don't want to point the finger at one and say this guy's a rat. So I couldn't say that. But I was saying. But anyway, in the course of the trial of Ammon and the guys that had been arrested, that's when it came out. They found out through testimony that there were at least 9 FBI informants embedded among this 20 to 40 people. Controlled opposition, influencing him, trying to steer him one way or another. That's what the FBI does, and they're very good at it. Very good at it. You have to be so careful. And you don't even have to be doing anything wrong. These guys, their only crime was that they were trespassing. And even that they were arguing wasn't trespassing. But, I mean, they were trespassing on a remote bird sanctuary building. Not the kind of thing that you bring in the FBI by the hundreds, and they did have hundreds of FBI agents swarming. That they wanted blood. The FBI wanted to make a statement. But it showed me, and one of the, I won't say who, but one of the people that I had used to get me connected to to Cliven and some of these top leaders, that individual turned out to be an FBI informant. Not one of these 9, but a different one. I had my suspicions, especially with the ease that this person was linking me up to the leaders. And I after that, I actually went out to, and I put a video of it, or was it that? Yeah, I put a video up of it. It was later on during the Las Vegas investigation, which was not real long after all this Malheur mess. I was interviewed by the FBI at uh, the Las Vegas FBI building, and it was crazy. They've got like an annex outside the gate where they've got a. I had to take off my belt. They had to pat me down. They had to do all this stuff, run checks, all this, and then escort me into the building. And I sat across from an FBI agent who, with a bulletproof glass window between us. And I told him, I said, I know that guy is one of yours. He said, who? And I named the person. I said, I know that's your informant. And that's when the interview took a very different turn. Got very pissed, very nasty. Anyway, you don't have to, I have seen it, you don't have to be doing anything criminal for them to come after you. Look at all the hippie movement of the 60s and 70s, the anti-Vietnam War movement. The way they had the FBI infiltrating them. Crazy. It's crazy. But now, it's so much worse. I do not trust my government. I don't trust my government. The final paragraph I'll just read real quick because I'm getting to the end here. The object of persecution is persecution. The object of torture is torture. The object of power is power. Now you begin to understand me. Power is not a means, it is an end. One does not establish a dictatorship in order to safeguard a revolution. One makes the revolution in order to establish the dictatorship. The purpose of power is power. So I see a growing trend toward authoritarianism in general, but I especially see it with the Trump administration. He has got that strong man persona that he tries to project. He looks up to people like Kim Jong-un to strong man. And he's trying to project himself as that. He has surrounded himself with only bootlickers who tell him what he wants to hear. There is nobody who tells him what he does not want to hear. Even Tulsi Gabbard got in line. I don't believe that Trump is in there trying to crush the deep state or take back our country. I think that this is just political theater. It's authoritarianism masquerading as populism. I see our federal government now under Trump, and take him out of it. If it was Vance in there, it'd be the same thing. And very possibly whoever the next Democrat president is could probably follow the same trend. So I'm not trying to distinguish between just one party, because I believe they're a uniparty. But it's dystopian what has become of our country. And once this kind of craziness becomes the norm, we're going to see a collapse of our institutions. We're already seeing the thread being pulled. Things are unraveling in America. And one of the ways they've done it is by taking people who are honest in heart and concerned and not saying you guys are all wrong, but co-opting this truth movement and just steering it slightly in the wrong direction, keeping it off path. That's the problem I see. Because the ultimate objective is power. We live in 1984. Israel is an Israeli linked tech companies, surveillance companies, the war industry. It's all linked in. It's a scary time in America. And so I hope that I don't get knocked off YouTube. I hope that I can continue talking about this stuff. And there's only so much that I can say in a single episode. But I do hope that I can do these longer live streams, but keep putting out 15, 20-minute shorter videos, the kind of things that are more bite-sized for the average person out there, right? Like no one's going to sit and listen to this live stream. In the past week, I've done 2 live streams over 6 hours, 2 live streams that were 5 hours, and 2 or 3 that were over 2 hours. This one is at 2.5 hours now. No one's going to sit there and listen to me yammering on about all this, except for people live, probably. Not too many people. So I'm going to do shorter videos. And I want to keep doing this. But I have to stress, I can't do it for free. I can't do it for free. I got to provide for my family. And the more time I spend on this, the less time I'm devoting to my other kinds of businesses. So if I can't make this float, if I can't get sufficient income, and I bring this up just because for about 2 weeks now, I've been begging practically every show for people to sign up on Patreon. $5 a month. And I've gotten a handful of people. But I've gotten maybe $50 worth of, in the last 2 weeks, worth of Patreon subscribers. And that's good. But come on, guys, $50 worth of monthly donations, that's not going to do it. I do get a lot of support in super chats, and that's one reason that I keep doing, even though they take a huge chunk. YouTube takes 30% of a super chat donation. But people are usually more willing to give in a super chat than they are to sign up for Substack or Patreon. But I do need to crowdsource this effort for it to be financially viable. So far, it is, and I'm committed to doing this for the foreseeable future. But I do need to make sure it's profitable too, so that I can justify doing it full time. Anyway, so to that end, I want to thank again all of the people who donated in this stream. There were Monster Mailers, Joel Dalton, Steve Niflis, and Dennis. How do you say it, Dennis? Sisik? Sigisic? I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry. Nobody can pronounce Morphonios when they first see it. So I empathize. I empathize. I am a brother who has a rough last name that's hard to pronounce. So I feel for you, my friend. Anyway, Old Dirty Shinobi says, "Don't leave us again, Jake." Hey, I have no plans to leave, but it all depends on whether or not I can earn income from it. As it is now, I can do this at least part-time. But to sustain it doing as much as I'm doing now, I think in the last 2 weeks, I've put out something like 10 Blackstone reports full of sources, full of data, very source heavy information in reports on Substack and Patreon. And I've done dozens of hours worth of live streams and videos. And I've been putting out a lot of podcasts. So look up Blackstone Intel report on your favorite podcast and find me there. Find me there. The things that you can do to help out with the channel if you can't donate financially is you can listen to the videos. You can share the videos. You can, if you can have it running in the background. If you're doing something and you just got your computer or your phone there or something, getting more views will help me. So anyway, I'm trying. I'm trying to do my part with this. It's a team effort. I do the blabbering, and you guys help me out. Give me the moral support like you do. That energizes me, keeps me going. And there's Jeremy Russell. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you so much for responding to my... Thank you. You're going to make me tear up. Jeremy and Old Dirty Shinobi. Thank you, guys. Very, very kind of you. Both of you. Very generous donations. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I always go tell my wife after live streams, you wouldn't believe this guy, I haven't talked to him before, he gave this donation, or this person said this. I share these experiences that I have with you guys. I share it with my wife. Oh, did you buy a... I've had my phone off this stream, so I haven't looked at anything, but... Oh, look at that. You did purchase something. I won't out any names or anything, but Blackstone cap sale. I'll write you a little note with it before I send it out. Thank you very much. Yeah, blackstonemerch.com. You got to sift through my my classic horror t-shirts and that kind of stuff. I need to create a folder or a link just to my this kind of Blackstone stuff now that I'm doing it again. But anyway, thank you very much. Thank you for the support. Thank you for signing up as free subscribers or paid subscribers at Substack. I want this to get big. I think that it's going to take a little time, and we are fighting an uphill battle because they don't like this stuff. The Ministry of Truth does not like to be challenged. But we're in this as a team. I really believe that. I'll do my part, you do your part. We will make a difference. We make a difference different ways, whether it's the way that we got all those, the 1,200 olive trees for the Palestinian farmers, or just waking people up. I read the comments when I have time under the videos that I do, and more people are saying, I've never heard you before. I just found out about you, and this is great. I didn't know this content was out there. So we are waking people up. I want this to become a wave of information that gets out there. Swamplight says, do the comments under the videos help boost the algorithms? Absolutely. That is something that you can do. If you can't donate money, what you can do that helps is the chat. I don't know that writing anything in the chat does anything to the algorithm, but if you go to the actual video itself and leave a comment there, especially if it's a supportive comment, then it definitely helps. It definitely helps because the system sees that there is activity, positive activity, not just a bunch of hate mail, but people are expressing support, and the algorithm picks that up. And I will get notices from YouTube saying, hey, in the first handful of hours, this happened. And so we are now putting your video into recommending it to more of your subscribers, which is kind of stupid. You ought to just give it to all my subscribers to start with. But I kind of earn it if there are enough likes and thumbs up and comments on the video in the early hours. YouTube does put it out to a greater number of my subscribers. Absolutely, it helps. Definitely helps. And then that kind of compounds and accelerates. So for sure, that's a way that all of you can help. Old Dirty Shinobi and Jeremy, like I told the others, Jake at blackstoneintel.com is my email address for this. If you want me to send you a personal thank you note, I'd be glad to. I'd be very happy to. Anyone that has donated in the live stream, you're welcome to email me, and I'll send you a personal thank you letter. You would just have to tell me what name and address you want it sent to and what your username is so I can kind of connect who it is. But anyway. All right, guys, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up now. We are at 2 hours, 34 minutes, and that is following the video that I had just posted. So anyway, yeah, I can't read the Mandarin or whatever that is. If you're expecting to grow on this platform with the nature of your content, you're deluding yourself. No, I'm not deluding myself. I've been doing this on YouTube since 2012. If I thought I'm going to grow huge and get the kind of numbers that I used to years ago, no, I'm not going to do that. I was getting millions of views, but I can still get out there. I can still make a difference. I think that I can do better, equivalently better than Mike Tyson did in his Jake Paul fight. I might be older, I might be more handicapped than I used to be, but I'm not going to pull my punches. I'm not going to get in there and pretend like I can't hold my own the way that Mike Tyson looks like he did. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. I'm not the guy. But I got a feeling that Mike Tyson probably could have knocked his lights out if he had wanted to. Who knows? I'm no boxing expert. I like that. My name is pronounced as it is spelled. Hey, Deluxe Lex, thank you so much, Deluxe Lex, for your donation. That's very kind of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you ever leave a totally legit comment and you don't see it, I'm not deleting them. Uh, you have the option to turn on the YouTube filter where it holds back things like spam. I get tons, all channels get spam that is sent by bots with links to phishing sites and stuff like that. So you can turn on this filter and it catches stuff like that. But in the process, it's kind of stupid, and it holds back some stuff that is legitimately bad. You know, people talking about F the Jews or stupid stuff like that. It'll hold that. But it also will hold completely benign comments where there's nothing wrong with it. And sometimes in the first hour or so after a video, when I'm checking the stats and everything, I'll go check that folder and try and release some of those that look like they're valid comments. But after the first hour or so, I can't, I've got so, literally every day I get hundreds of comments on my videos, and I just don't have the time to devote to going in. So please don't take offense if you don't see a comment that you think is legit. I'm not choosing to hold it back. That's how it goes. Yeah, Michael says, as people get deluded from following the Uniparty, you'll get more attention. Yeah, yeah. Before 2016, I had a lot more attention because people were less tribal than they are today. But I think that's changing. I think that's changing. Law Guy says, Jake, can you remind us about the Opium War? Who owns the opium trade? It's changed over the years. At the time that I was had some knowledge or interaction, it was out of the Golden Triangle, and the world's largest producer was General Kun Sa, Burmese warlord, um, at that time. But he got taken out years later. So anyway, uh, all right, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Thank you to everyone for your comments in the chat. And I guess we'll talk again in the next day or two. We'll do another live stream before too long. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great night. I appreciate every last one of you. Take care.